Well, welcome to the Loud and Live Sports Podcast. This is Matt O'Keefe from Loud and Live, and I have the pleasure of being with first and foremost, a great friend of mine, Nick Shaw from RP, and Nick is also a very successful entrepreneur, a businessman in the health and wellness space, and we're going to talk a little bit about that today. But first of all, I just want to say hello and welcome, Nick.
Dude, thanks for having me on, man. It feels like it's been forever since I've been down to Miami, so I'm kind of missing it.
Well, I'm not in Miami either. We could get back together in Boston soon if you'd like.
Dude, I'm just looking to travel. I haven't traveled since last December, man. I've been in Charlotte for a while, so I'm ready to get back out there, I think.
Well, I've been back on the road a little bit, and it's been great. I missed it. Yeah, I was in lockdown after being a weekly traveler. It was a hard set up for me for a bit, but get out there, get on a plane. It's not that bad. Charlotte is actually, can I tell you, because I've flown a lot through there over the last few months, is probably one of the busiest airports right now. Uniquely, I don't know why that is. Do people not care about COVID down there?
I'm not really sure. I don't really go anywhere near the airport, man. We've just been pretty much on lockdown for a while, but we're starting to kind of get back out there a little bit. I'm just happy, man. My kids are finally going back to school on Monday. We've been third and first grader. Like, it's just rough, and trying to run a business, work from home, all that stuff. It's been interesting, man. It's an interesting year.
Yeah, no, I hear that. Well, I'd love to talk about a few things with you. First of all, let's tell our listeners a little bit about you. And I have a lot of experience with you, many different angles. Nick is the founder and CEO of RP Strength. You started RP, that journey back in 2012, but why don't you tell us a little bit about what that is for those who don't know, how it started and kind of where it's at today.
Yeah, so my buddy and I, Dr. Mike Israel, he's co-founder of RP with me. We're just a couple of meatheads, really, at the end of the day. We're just a couple of meatheads that like to lift, and I met him at the University of Michigan, which is where I went. It's in my background, a little bit of a rough year there, so we won't talk about that too much.
We'll leave that one alone.
We'll leave that one alone quite a bit. We met in the weight room, and, we just always loved fitness, loved the idea of, pushing ourselves, getting better, tested a lot of stuff on ourselves, diet, training, all that good stuff. Learned a lot. Both graduated, went out to New York City. We're personal trainers, kept up the same thing, just same idea, just kept learning, practicing, tweaking stuff on ourselves. Eventually got to the point, he went back to get his PhD. I don't know, back then, 2010, 2011. I don't even know if Instagram was a thing back then, but we started doing some online coaching. It did really well. We kind of grew from there. We got into some ebooks. And once we sort of saw that, we were like, all right, well, this is something we need to probably do more of. Came out with a diet template like way back in February of 2015. So it's been a while. And just over time, that's just the idea of keep getting better over time, keep improving, eventually led to us creating an app. And so now we have the RP Diet Coach app, which, instead of paying a couple $100s a month for a nutrition coach, you can go download that, and it's $15 a month, have a coach in your pocket.
Very cool. And I'm not only a friend, but I'm a client occasionally. When I want my abs to reappear, I hop back in. So I can attest to Nick's product being incredible and so friendly and easy to use. So if you haven't had a chance to check out RP, you really should. It's definitely been. I've tried everything. I will tell you that. I can officially and confidently say that, and it's the one, sort of diet or nutrition focused program that I've been able to really stick to when I want to. So thank you for that. And my whole family, by the way, I've had many of my family that have used it. So tell again, the listeners a little bit about, I think you're really humble in kind of your involvement in sport. You're very always quietly behind the scenes, but you have your tentacles everywhere. You work with Olympic athletes, many other major sport athletes in some of the big four sports, and of course, a lot of CrossFitters. So, talk a little bit about that, where you're at with that. You're not only a nutrition, based program, but your performance nutrition based program.
Yeah, we definitely started in more of the performance realm and just kind of naturally, because that's such a small world, of course, performance nutrition. And really the thing that kind of opened the doors was getting in the CrossFit world. And, I don't need to tell all you guys, people listening, but if you go into a CrossFit box of 200 members, let's say 10, 20 maybe compete, everyone else just wants to get leaner. So that was a good segue for us into more just like general population. And it's one of those things where if you're competing at the Olympics, if you're a Rich Froning, if you're Annie Thorstadter, you can use RP. But if you just want to lose 10, 15 pounds, you want to get in shape, I mean, like you said, you want to dial things in a little bit, get in shape, you can use it. And, it always goes back to, not everyone can afford one-on-one coaching. It's more expensive. But our whole idea was, even with the templates, was, well, how do we make this idea, this process cheaper? And so we made it down into, $100 template you can go buy. And then now what's better than that, right? So paper template's kind of like having a map, right? If you wanted to go back 20 years in time, people are having maps and drawing where they're going to go and all that. Or actually, what? They would go to the internet. They would print off the step-by-step, turn-by-turn directions. Do you remember that?
Oh, I do very well. Yeah. I navigated most of my life that way.
Totally. So again, that's the kind of idea that we had with the templates, where we had this, and it's fine. You can do that. Just like you could go do that now, I suppose. But what's easier? Turn-by-turn navigation. So people want GPS. You go to Google Maps. You go to Apple Maps. Whatever. You punch it in and it tells you everything. And, you don't know if there's construction if you're running a paper map. Like, you don't know if roads are closed. GPS knows all of that. Whereas like with the Diet Coach app, like that's what it does now. You punch in your goals. You tell it when you want to work out, when you sleep, how many meals you want per day. You can now tell if like, hey, you're busy from, 12 to 4, like you're not going to get a meal then or whatever. So it's just like this hand holding, turn by turn direction for your nutrition goals. And, it's what, $15 a month. That's the idea, is make it more accessible to everyone. Really, that's the ultimate goal.
And you've done that well. Yeah, the app is incredible. And I know that's been a big journey for you. And there's been a lot of work, hard work, blood, sweat, and tears put into that thing.
Dude, totally. It's a very accurate statement, man. Blood, sweat, and tears. Yeah, for sure. For anyone that doesn't know much about software, it's and I didn't know too much until a handful of years ago. It's just a whole different ballgame, and it's really tough. And it's funny because we have this giant Facebook group, and it's great because people give lots of feedback, pretty much instantly. And sort of everyone thinks that they want to think, hey, have you thought of this? It's like, yes, we've thought of pretty much all these things. But then it just comes down to prioritizing them, right? Like, we don't have infinite resources. We're still a small business, completely bootstrapped from day one. Like, yeah, we would love to, hire 30 engineers, but like, it's just not possible. And even with that comes more issues. So, it's just start small, keep improving. Every few months, new updates are coming out based on feedback and all that. So it's really cool, because before with paper templates, you couldn't get a bunch of data either. Like, now we can get data from the app that sort of shows like, hey, people that are more successful do these handful of things. People that are less successful do these handful of things. So now when people join the app, we can sort of give them some tips or some nudges in the right direction. Be like, hey, are you sure you want to try to lose that much weight? That might be really hard. Why don't you try this goal? People do that, then they're more successful. They get more momentum, more confidence. They keep going. It's like a win-win thing.
How do you deal with, there's probably a lot of people like me, they'll come to you and be like, hey, I want to get ripped in 8 weeks, it's like a instant gratification culture really at this point. What is, you're looking for, and I know, because we've had these conversations, sustainability, lifestyle sustainability, people that can, integrate this as, a part of their life forever. It isn't, necessarily the path you would want somebody as a customer to tread is, hey, get ripped in 8 weeks and now I'm ripped and I'll take some time off. That's not how your program works. Your program is a lifestyle program. And I've experienced that. Yeah. We all kind of bounce on and off, which is, I think, one of the coolest parts about Nick, for you guys who are listening, is the reality that is, integrated into what he applies to you from the nutrition side is incredible. Because the reality is, you're going to eat a candy bar every once in a while, and he knows this. Because I think and it's not about all in. It's about building a process and plan and structure that's sustainable for the long term. But you probably have that, and I'm sure you convert a lot of clients that way. But tell a little about that, because I think that's really important. What's I think probably been one of the most attractive pieces for me is like, you get it, and not that nutritionists don't, but I think there's the this pie in the sky, value that nutritionists will often have, which is like, complete compliance, and it's not possible.
Yeah, so probably the biggest thing we like to talk about is just consistency is more important than perfection. Because here's the thing, you nailed it. Instant gratification, people want results yesterday. Now, is that how it works? No, you know that. And anyone into CrossFit knows that. You don't walk into the gym day one, add 100 pounds to your back squat. It doesn't work like that, unfortunately. And I wish it did, right? I wish it worked like that, but it doesn't. So, again, some of that goes back to the more data, the more people that use the app, the longer they use the app, we can pull in more information, we can get more cool stuff. And, a lot of this stuff, I don't know of any study that can, point to 10,000 successful completed diets. Like, we have a big article out that did that, and it sort of listed like all the things that successful people did. That's really cool information. So you can just get all this. And it's like, if we can now tell people this when they start the app, we can sort of point them in the direction that says, hey, instead of trying to go from 0 to 100, let's try to go 0 to 30, 0 to 40. Get you some momentum, keep going, do well, and then build upon that. It's like, again, think long term, not just short term, right? Like, most successful people, yes, they want results and they want it quick, but they sort of realize that's not possible. They think, in terms of, let's say, 6 months or 12 months, right? Like, take a high level athlete. They probably have a year-long plan. They get done with a big competition like the CrossFit Games. Well, now it's like, okay, now we move into this phase. And then after that phase, we'll move into the next phase. They're not just thinking, well, how do I win the CrossFit Games tomorrow? It's like, no, like, there's a plan in place. So hopefully that's part of it, just kind of education in people and just sort of explaining them. But it is tough because everyone wants that. And there's a lot of people out there that are trying to sell that, and not in our realm, not really in the CrossFit circles, but like general population. You get out there and you see all sorts of just dumb stuff. That's really what we're competing against, because people want that, and then people are out there trying to sell it, of course. So it's a little back and forth.
What do you mean? I can't just take hydroxycut and lose 20 pounds? I get it. I tell you, I've tried everything. It is one of those unique things that, I think, as you get older too, you look back at and just think how dumb you were in either approach, or the fact that you don't focus on it. It is the one thing that I think is like most in your control on a daily basis that can lengthen, improve so many facets of your life, right? It's like, how I sleep is directly correlated to how I eat, like bar none, baseline, right? I mean, I know it, I feel it. You've helped me become more in tune with a lot of that stuff. I think it's fascinating. What I think is, and what I want to talk a lot about is, what your most recent project, your book. And I think what, people will learn with taking the opportunity to engage, RP and work with you guys is, it is very well thought out, well done. You're a very successful entrepreneur, business person, and you've chosen to really share some of that with the world with your new project with Fit for Success. And I do want to talk mostly about that because I think it's important. You have that simplicity approach to how people should really focus on their nutrition, and it's what I think has helped you be very successful on the business side as well. What inspired this book? You have a lot to share. I've always felt that way. We talk, a bit in business related, like, this is exciting for someone like me to kind of get a little bit of a gateway into your brain and how you've built such a very successful business. How, what was the kick in the ass on this?
A couple things. So one, 2020 has been a rough year. 2020 has also been a rough year for everyone. Like, not just me personally. Real quick, if we go back to January, my wife was diagnosed with breast cancer, had surgery in February, started chemo in March. I went with her to the first one right after that. And then what happened? COVID hit, quarantine hit, shelter in place hit. It just seemed like there was all this bad stuff happening. And it would have been very easy to just take the victim approach and just been like, oh, woe is me, woe is us. We were just dealt a bad hand. Let's just have a pity party. And I don't know about you, but I don't like that mindset. no matter what happens to me, like I'm going to try to take things by, grab the bull by its horn, so to speak. And, I just got to thinking, I had been doing sort of all this, kind of reading in the back end and formulating all these ideas. And, I've been super fortunate to work with some of the best athletes in the world. And you can see the things that they do that make them successful. And I've sort of been obsessed with like, what makes people really successful ultimately? And you take these principles from working with lots of clients, seeing lots of clients, right? Working with the top athletes, reading a ton. You sort of get all this ideas, and I had them down, and I thought to myself, well, 2020 is going to be a rough year for everyone. I know a lot of people are struggling, trying to overcome adversity, all that. Well, what are all these common themes that make people successful? So that's why I really wanted to get the book out before the end of the year, because every single person in the world, right, has been impacted by COVID and just the general year. So I think a lot of people are struggling, and I kind of relate to my own story, right, with my own family, and we had to homeschool 2 kids on top of everything else. Like, it's been a really rough year, but I still wanted to make something good come of 2020. And so I think this book is going to be that. I think it's going to help a lot of people. Read it. It's like 150 pages. You can read it in an afternoon if you're on a flight. And there's just some simple takeaways. And if you read it, you'll sort of just get the ideas of like, hey, here's what needs to be done. Here's some simple take-home messages at the end of each chapter. And boom, you do that. Like, you can make a lot of good come of 2020, no matter what hand you were dealt.
Great. Talk a little bit about the framework of it. What is it? What are the key components? Now, I know you outline habits, right? What are those habits, and why did you pick those? We want people to read the book, obviously, and they will get a lot more in it. But I think it's such an important piece of the book as you build this, sort of pyramid for success.
Yeah, right. So everyone knows RP from the pyramid we have in our nutrition, recovery books, things like that. So really, I sat down one day. I was like, wow, I think we can make the same with kind of an approach to how you can overcome adversity or how you can become successful ultimately. Because no matter if you're Rich Froning, Annie Thorstad, or if you're someone overcoming, disease, whatever it is, like these same principles are going to apply. So there's 7 of them. So you have to start with work ethic, right? Like, no matter what you want to do, that's the most important part, because that actually builds success. You know this. You can have the best ideas in the world, but what happens if you don't act on them? Nothing happens, right? Okay, so you have ideas, cool. Like, you actually have to put them into place with hard work. So again, you're very familiar with that. And Fraser, of course, is taglines, right? Like, hard work pays off. So done. Okay, that one's probably the easiest one. You actually mentioned this earlier. You talked about what you can control, right? So let's say COVID hits. Maybe you can't go to the gym. Your gym's closed. What can you control? You can always control your nutrition, right? I know it's hard. I'm not saying these things are easy, of course. So internal locus of control refers to if you believe that you can impact things, or if things just happen to you, right? So if things happen to you, you have an external locus of control. If you don't believe the things that you do matter, well, why are you going to take action in the first place? You're probably not. So you kind of get that, learned helplessness. You're not going to take action. You're not going to do the hard work because you don't think it matters. So it relates perfectly to training and to nutrition, because no matter what happens, yeah, you can't go to the gym. Can you do some body weight stuff at home? You betcha. You sure can. Of course you can. So that's number 2, internal locus of control. Number 3, super important. You guys are really familiar with barbells for boobs, but when everything happened with my wife, I had a conversation with Z, and it's funny that the first 2 things she ever told me was, 1, focus on the things that you can control. I was like, okay, yeah, makes sense. 2, you got to stay positive. I was like, okay, yeah, that makes sense. Well, that becomes pillars 2 and 3. Like, kind of already had that idea in mind. She just reinforced it, and she's dealt with however many people that have had to deal with some of the worst stuff out there. So again, you just got to stay positive. It's number 3. Number 4 is discipline. That's sort of self-explanatory a little bit. Number 5, sort of your overall purpose and meaning, like why are you doing what you do, right? We're all in the fitness space. It's hopefully easy for us. We love fitness. Number 6, failure, which I think is always an interesting one. Might be my favorite one, because you read a book about success and you're like, well, why the hell do you want to talk about failure? It's like, well, everyone fails, right? So I fail every day, probably. Like, I'm sure, I don't know, maybe you think the same, I don't know, but.
I do. It's such a key component to success. Yeah. Christ, of course. If anybody's perfect out there, I'd love to know.
Nobody is.
Yeah, it is. Hourly, there's something that comes up, and you're only as good as how you handle that the next time it comes up, right? It's like don't make that same mistake twice, right?
Totally. And that's the whole idea behind it. It's not that you're not going to fail. You are going to fail, like, no matter who you are. It doesn't matter. It's really what you learn from it, and then, what happens from there, right? And successful people, they know that's going to happen. They take it in stride. They learn from it. They hopefully don't have a big ego, and they take some lessons, and then it doesn't happen again. Or if it does happen again, something's going to happen. You just kind of keep going. So a lot of people out there, they sort of get stuck in the mindset where they're so afraid of failure that they don't even get started, right? It's kind of this weird, dichotomy there, but you have to know that you're going to fail, you're going to mess up, but as long as you learn from it, you keep going, you're going to be okay. So that's number 6. And then number 7 would be sort of recharge. So again, like, you can go, but what's going to happen eventually? You're going to burn out, you're going to get worn down, right? So if we go back to the CrossFit Games example, what do they do after the CrossFit Games? They take time off, they relax, they eat whatever they want. For a month, they're not doing anything. That's part of it, because you can't just go year round. You're going to get hurt. You're going to, something bad's going to happen. So that's it. That's a pretty good summary of the book.
Yeah. And I think, what's really important is, there's a really good message entrepreneurially, and there is, just on how you live your life, and you've been very successful on all fronts, but it's good for people to hear that. Like, I think it's, you've had a lot of success. I think the world of you and how you handle, very, complex situations, and adversity, but, you don't even handle them the way you want to every time, right? Perfections and, imperfection is the perfection in the world, right? You have to accept that. It's really good, and I think the readers will take a lot from it. What is your plan on, you're going to get out and do some, go to CrossFit gyms and talk about the book, do some signings, where can people find it? I'd love to know a little bit about, obviously COVID's got us kind of locked down right now, but we want to help, I will say that, you're going to have to get out. We want you to. This message in here is important. People need to get their hands on it. We want to help with that. But what's your plans around that? Are you going to get around a little bit when the veil's lifted on this madness?
Yeah, I would love to. Absolutely. Listen, I love talking about fitness. I love talking about nutrition. I love talking about training. This book is kind of the ability to take one step outside of that. And we all love fitness. We're all into fitness that are listening to this. But there's a whole other component, right, to just mindset and how you overcome things and all that. And we've never really had that. And I think this is a good opportunity for that. We've never had a paperback cover or a hardcover book before. Normally we stick to ebooks, and, hardcover is just kind of easier to get in everyone's hands. And so I'm just super excited about it. Like, there's a reason I wanted to get it out before, 2020 is over. We were successful with that. I've been very happy with the feedback so far. It's done pretty well on Amazon, Kindle. So yeah, man, at the end of the day, I just love talking about this stuff. And I could talk about it literally all day long. I'm not going to, because people might get bored, but it's what I'm passionate about. It's helping people, whether it's fitness, whether it's one step outside of fitness.
Where can people get the book?
Yeah, probably the best spot is on Amazon. So just go to Amazon, look up Fit for Success, Nick Shaw. That's easy. It should pop right up. Should be right at the top. And
very, 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 very cool. Well, give me, before we wrap up, give me a nugget here for people. You've written this book, and I've been able to experience you and, your philosophy here through this book. And, I'm very fortunate. I have access to you, which is great. I can just pick the phone up and call you and get kind of where your mind's at on something, but give the listeners a nugget. Like, if there's something that, is like the golden piece of this book, or your mindset, or, something that would reach to fitness, life, work, that could be really helpful for them.
I'll give 2 real quick,
right,
if that's okay.
Cool.
So number 1, and I think this fits perfect in CrossFit, but I've always been drawn to this idea, even if we go back to high school and I was like a runner. The harder you work, the better you can get. And it's the whole idea, the whole concept of just continually getting a little bit better, right? There's almost no end in sight, because you just love the process. You love the idea. People ask me well, what's the end goal? I don't know. I just want to keep getting better. I don't know where that's going to lead, but if I keep doing that, right? If I keep getting better every single day for weeks and months and years on end, all I fundamentally know is that where I'm at now will be nowhere compared to where I'll be 1 year from now, 3 years from now, 5 years from now. And that process is just never going to end, right? Like that's why we do fitness. Take CrossFit. You can always get better at something. It doesn't matter what it is. You can lift more weights, you can get faster, you can do more reps. Like you can always get better. Like that's why we're kind of drawn to this. So for me, that's huge. Number two goes back to a little bit when you talk about instant gratification. I think the more successful people have a longer term time horizon. They're more up for delayed gratification. They know that whatever they want, yes, they want it now, but they're willing to make the sacrifices and the trade-offs, right? It's all about trade-offs for the longer term approach, right? Like take personal finances, for example. Yes, wouldn't everyone want to be rich tomorrow? Yes, of course. Does it work like that? Absolutely not. You just got to put in the work. You keep saving and investing, and it compounds. And again, do a little bit each day, a little bit each week, a little bit each month. And a year from now, you're in a totally different spot. It keeps compounding. You just keep getting better and better and better over time. It's nothing super fancy, right? Like a lot of these ideas have been around forever, but sometimes it just takes a little different way to explain it, or way to say it, or way to simplify it that ties all these things together that can resonate with people. Just like RP nutrition. Like we don't have fundamentally any sort of trade secrets. Now we might have some in the app, but like you master the basics. And sometimes it just takes hearing it in a little bit different way. Because I know for me personally, I just would read a book or something, and it's just like one little way someone says something just resonates a little bit differently. And it just seems to stick. And then you're like, I can't believe I didn't do this before. Right? Like, have you ever had that happen?
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
Absolutely. No, I think that's a great message. And, I think most importantly, the long game, right? Like that's, I've tried it short and mid, and
We all have.
there's nothing in it. It really isn't, but that's where you become lucky. Right. And, there's no substitute for that hard work, patience, process. I couldn't agree with that more. And again, I've tried it all, but yeah, hey, you live that day to day, and I've watched that evolution with you and your business over the last, whatever we've known each other, 6-7 years. So, obviously as the listeners can hear, I'm a big fan. There is a man crush here. Nick Shaw is a great guy. Been a big piece of inspiration in my life, a big part of everything we do with athletes, our events. It's been a huge catalyst in our space, the fitness space. Thank you. Thanks for being here. Where can people find you and RP Nutrition? I think, if anybody takes anything out of this, read this book, but, give them a look on a really practical way to approach your nutrition, through their app and their program.
Yeah, I mean, most people probably know about us through Instagram at RP Strength. Me personally, at nick.shaw.rp. Easy.
Nick is an athlete too, so you'll get to see that. Nick's very, this very modest individual, keeps his shirt on a lot. You'll see some pictures of him with his shirt off and be like, oh, okay, I see. There's a lot of hard work there. Nick's shredded powerlifting. Oh, you were a powerlifter, right?
That's how I got started, man. Like I said, I'm a meathead. I started in powerlifting, bodybuilding, and it's, kind of morphed. I'm actually a little bit more into, I don't know, I guess cardio now, but just always lifting, man.
He still won't use the word CrossFit. We've tried.
I do some CrossFit. No, I did some CrossFit.
He would do. I remember, just to finish. He would. I remember when you were doing your first CrossFit workouts, I'd get this text and be like, "Hey, man, I did CrossFit today." And he was we tried to convert him, but well, thank you very much. Thanks for all you do for athletes, and you're such a great partner of our events, and it's great to catch up with you. And I also need to congratulate you on this book. It's a great manual for success, and it's an awesome entry into your mind, a great mind, and a great entrepreneurial mind. So if you guys have some time, please give it a read, and you can find it on Amazon. Fit for Success by Nick Shaw from RP Strength. Thanks, Nick, and it was great to spend some time with you.
Well, thanks so much for having me on, man. I really appreciate it. It's always good catching up.
And that's it. That's it for this episode of the Loud and Live Sports Podcast. Matt O'Keefe with Nick Shaw.